Yo, your flag is all fucked up.
That's fine. I guess we should be good.
Dirty Mike and the boys.
Robert.
All right. Robert?
Did you show him the video?
I posted on the blog. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of On the Block. Joe Ferrari here with Igor Henriquez. We're gonna do our first show here in week 2 of the NFL, and we're gonna make some gambling picks. We're gonna talk about what happened in week 1 with some of the matchups, and we're gonna cut to the chase and get to our picks. Igor, Patriots, big win last week. Obviously, Antonio Brown not in the lineup amidst rape charges, but he is supposed to play this week. The Steelers looked flat, and that's, to be honest, that's an understatement.
That's very true.
33-3, was that the final?
33-3 was the final, yeah.
What?
Well, I mean, it was if you look at, I think the Steelers were looking at like they were gonna have a better defense going in. That got shredded quite a bit by some big plays by Philip Dorsett and Josh Gordon. And you look at the offense with Juju was getting Stephon Gilmore the entire game. That was problematic for him because, again, when Antonio was there, he was obviously getting the single coverage and not getting the team's best corners. And then, yeah, they didn't really have much going. The running game was awful. Ben made some really bad throws. Vance McDonald, who they were expecting big things from at tight end, had 1 catch, and that was pretty much when the game was over in the fourth quarter. It was a dominant performance. The one thing I'm looking forward to, besides the Antonio Brown situation, however that ends up going, the Patriots' defense was actually supremely impressive. I mean, it kept that momentum that they had from the Super Bowl last year against the Rams. And again, it looks like a great from linebackers, and they were missing Kyle Van Noy, who was wife was having a baby, so he wasn't there, and he's their best linebacker.
He was their best player in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, so I mean that defense looked solid, and they gave the Steelers all sorts of problems. And again, the Steelers without Le'Veon Bell and without Antonio Brown just don't have the weapons. I think. I mean, Moncrief dropped some balls.
A lot of balls. I wanted to get to that. He was terrible.
He was pretty terrible, and again, like they just don't have the depth that they had, and I think they thought they were better overall, but I didn't see that last week. And again, saying that, I mean, you're at Foxborough week 1, but they looked flat. Ben didn't look interested.
Terrible.
Yeah, it just
wasn't moving well.
It wasn't a good game for them, that's for sure.
And I guess, well, since we're starting with New England, let's talk about Miami last week. It was a 7.5 spread against Baltimore, and they lose by 50-something points, right? I don't even remember the score.
I think it was like
Dolphins fans don't want to remember either.
54-7 or something like that. It was pretty rough.
It was rough. Lamar Jackson ran all over them, threw all over them. But you're looking at the spread right now between 19 and 20, depending where you're getting it. I know you're going Patriots. Do you think that this is going to be? I don't think it's going to get as ugly as it was last week for them.
Actually, I'm not going Patriots. I'm going to try to stay. If I'm from a gambling thing, I'm probably going to try to stay away from that because I don't like to bet like lines that high. Mm-hmm. There's a couple things. One, like you mentioned, the Dolphins were embarrassed last week. And I think teams that tend to get embarrassed that bad, they tend to have a higher effort. Bounce back situation. Tom, for some reason, always seems to struggle in Miami. Again, this team isn't a good team. It really isn't. And again, with Antonio Brown and everything going on, but to lay down 20 points, a 3-touchdown spread on someone on the road, it's a division game. Like I said, it's usually, last year was the Miami Miracle where Bill made a mistake putting Gronkowski at the back for that last-ditch play and ended up costing them the game. Ended up costing them home field advantage in the playoffs. It ended up, if I had to actually bet it, I'd probably take Miami in the spread simply for the fact that, yes, New England's a much better team, but, I'm going to always take the 20 points. Like, if anything can happen. They score a couple TDs. I'm not expecting them to let them in a 54. Like, 20 points is like a 3-touchdown spread. That's a lot of points.
Obviously, New England's able to cover. If they won by 40, it wouldn't really be a surprise. I'm leaning towards Miami as well for all the reasons you mentioned. At home, division game, got embarrassed. Now, Miami might not win a game this season, but I do think that they keep it within. They might even lose by 21. Who knows what's going to happen? But we're going to go through every game. We're going to make picks on every game. We'll have four games that we really like. So to move on from this game, we're both on Miami, right? We'll take Miami plus 20.
Yeah, I would take Miami plus 25 if I was going to lay it down. Like I said, I'm probably not going to stay away from that game because it's just too many points one way or another. But, I'd probably take the Dolphins in there because historically there have been close games in Miami.
Okay, let's move on. We'll stay in the division in the AFC East. We'll move on to the Bills with a surprise win last week against the Jets. Not a massive upset, but they were 3-point dogs going into New Jersey, actually. Mm-hmm. And this week they're between, depending where you're in the line, 2 or 3 points for Buffalo on the road at the Giants. Giants went up early against Dallas last week. I thought that they looked pretty good, and as the game went on, Dallas just wore them out too much. Their defense too strong, and then also Zeke had a big game coming back. I thought he was going to take some time to adjust, but he looked really good. Early leads in this game. Who do you like?
I'm going to take, again, over here it looks like the Bills are favored by 2 points. I would actually take the Giants at home in this situation. I think the Bills' victory last week was an anomaly on a lot of fronts. One, they turned the ball over 4 times against the Jets while not getting any takeaways themselves and won the game. Mostly due to the fact that the Jets' kicker really messed up in terms of he missed a bunch of different kicks. I think the Jets blew that game. The Bills didn't win that game. Again, I don't think you can really trust the Bills team to be favored on the road, even though the Giants are a pretty terrible team. I mean, you still have Saquon, you still have still Shepard and stuff like that. So they still have some decent weapons. And like I said, I mean, they lost reasonably bad in Dallas last week, but that I think Dallas has a higher caliber team than the Bills, obviously. So I would definitely take the home underdog there and have the Giants covering the 2 points there. Simply based on the fact that you just can't really trust the Bills on a week to week, and especially like I said, they didn't really look that great last week.
I'm going to make the same pick. I really like the Giants here. Like you said, a lot of firepower with Saquon. I don't think Eli gets a bad rap. He's had a bad few seasons. Obviously, he has the 2 rings, and he's been terrible recently. But he knows that this is towards the end of his career, and Buffalo's defense is great, especially stopping the run. But I do think that the Giants are going to be able to pull this one out, and I'm going to go with the Giants here as well. Let's go to Pittsburgh. Seattle just escaped last week at home to Cincinnati, won by 1 point. Surprised a lot of people, especially considering that Seattle was a 10-point favorite. They didn't cover. So you got Pittsburgh here, some places 3, some places 4. We have it here at 4 points. Who do you like in this matchup? And we'll try and get through these a little bit quicker, but Seattle or Pittsburgh?
Based off a 4-point spread here, I think this will be a field goal game one way or another. I would lean to take the points and take Seattle on that because, like I said, I don't think Pittsburgh looked all that great. I think the Seattle defense, especially getting Clowney, is getting better. I think, again, they didn't play all that. Again, the team didn't play all that well against Cincinnati. Still managed to get a win there. But I like Russell Wilson in that situation. And I think Pittsburgh is in a state of flux. And I wouldn't be able to lay down 4 on them. Like if the line was at 2.5, I might think differently. But I legitimately believe that's a 3-point game, one way or another. And in that case, I'll take Seattle to cover.
This one's tough. I do think that Pittsburgh will probably win the game. Seattle doesn't travel very well. They haven't for a long time. Going across the country there. I'm leaning towards Seattle as well. When the game comes, I might lean towards Pittsburgh, but I'm going to make my pick and take Seattle here. I'll take the 3 or 4 points. And I kind of agree. To be honest, I even think that Seattle might win this game.
All right, yeah.
All right, yeah. So I'll go with Seattle here. Let's move on to my squad. Tennessee Titans, big win last week. Put a big smile on my face. And I think they've had 3 years in a row where they've been 9 wins. I think they've had 9 wins the past few years. Just missed out on the playoffs last year, losing to Andrew Luck on the last game of the season. So they smashed Cleveland, which a lot of people were surprised. And what always scares me in terms of the betting and watching the lines is whenever the public really goes in on a team, you kind of have to look the other way, even if it doesn't make much sense to you. Like we saw with Carolina and Tampa. Who took Tampa yesterday, right? Tampa won outright. I think a lot of people last week took Cleveland. Tennessee smashed them, like I said. Now, Indy went to overtime against the Chargers in LA. LA won by 6 in that one, so I think that they pushed because the line was at 6. Do you like Tennessee? You think they're going to win back-to-back games? I know they're at home. It's a division game. It's a division game, but again.
I think that the Tennessee defense is underrated. I think
very good.
It's a team not just because it's your squad. I do legitimately think that it's a team that's on the rise. I think that they're in that division. I think they are the favorites to win that division. If I had to
really,
yes, Houston? I actually do because in the fact that that it's a team that's been on the rise for a couple of years. I like what Vrabel's doing as the coach. They're starting to get some weapons offensively. I don't really mind Mariota. I think he hasn't blossomed, but Derrick Henry had a really good game last week. The defense has been was pretty stellar as well. 4 points there. Jacoby Brissett leading the Indy squad. Again, I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans in there because I think that's a win by at least a touchdown. I think they have a lot of momentum going. It's a team that's going to be a problem in the conference. And again, I like what the defense is doing, and I think they'll cause Jacoby a lot of problems the same way they caused Baker Mayfield problems. So I'm taking Tennessee to cover.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans too. I usually don't like taking my teams, but I do like what they're doing there. They've spent a lot of draft picks past few years on defense. And A.J. Brown, their second round pick out of Mississippi, he looked really good last week. I think he had about 100 yards receiving. Tennessee's never really had any great wide receivers. I don't know if they've ever even had a Pro Bowler. So if you can give Mariota weapons, I think the problem with him has been staying on the field in his career, and then also the fact that Tennessee said this is just like the Tampa quarterback Winston. They're both in their fifth year, so teams are kind of deciding, are we going to pay these guys? And I just think that Tennessee's done their best, saying we're going to give you one more year. We're giving you weapons, 2 wide receivers, first. Then Corey Davis, a first round pick, went 5th overall, right? He hasn't really done much yet. And like you said, Derrick Henry's been really good. So I'm going to ride Tennessee, defense and offense. I think this is turning into a bit of a complete team. I'm going to go with the Titans. We're agreeing again. Dallas, Washington. So Dallas 6.5 points at the Redskins. Redskins were up on the Eagles.
Quite heavy, yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were scared, especially in survivor pools last week. I think the spread was like 14. Philly's going to be obviously a very solid team. You get Carson Wentz back. Hopefully he stays healthy. Dallas with a big win in week 1 at home. Now Dallas traveling in a division game. Who do you like?
I mean, like I said, it's a 6.5 point spread. I just don't think you can trust the Washington Redskins at this point. I don't have a lot of trust in Case Keenum. I thought looked like they had the Philly game in hand. That was going to be the big upset. I mean, Deshaun Jackson just torched them for the majority of the game. If I was to I would definitely take a 6.5 as it's a touchdown game. Again, you look at Dak, you look at Ezekiel Elliott. I think that Dallas is a much better team, and I'd have to take the 7 point or the 6.5. I think that's a perfect spread. You get a touchdown victory that gets it done. I would take the Dallas Cowboys then.
I don't think that I think Washington's going to be a bottom team in the league, and although it is a division game and they're at home, I don't like taking the Cowboys, but I think this is a few games in a row now we're going together. I'm going to take Dallas on the 6.5. I do think that they might run away with it. I think the Dallas' defense is just too strong.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not a Dak fan. To be honest, I'm not a fan of his at all. But they do have a lot of weapons, and I do think that Washington's going to have a really tough time scoring this game. San Fran, Cincinnati. San Fran went to Tampa last week, had a big win, an interception return too, I believe. Sherman's there. He looks like he's rejuvenated. Cincinnati, like we said, kept it in check with at Seattle, which not a lot of people thought. They almost escaped that with the win.
Yeah, it was a tough play.
So we have Cincinnati here by 2 at home. Who do you like him?
I mean, a lot of people were really impressed with Andy Dalton last week. And again, like I said, Seattle's a very tough place to play. And again, a 1 point loss there. Again, I don't think I have enough trust in San Francisco to really, again, a 2 point thing for Cincinnati. Again, I would probably go Bengals in that situation because, again, they had a pretty impressive effort with Boyd. They're probably not going to have Mixon, so it'll be Bernard in there. Again, I have to have a couple more games to see what Jimmy G's all about in terms of how he's recovering from the surgery. I'm going to take the Cincinnati to cover there. It's a 2 point spread, a field goal game, so I'm taking the Bengals to cover.
Okay, so I'm going San Fran. I've been a big fan of Garoppolo. I know that last year obviously he tore his knee. Had a decent game last week, but I really like San Fran's defense and what they've kind of built. I think they're a team on the rise too. That's a very tough division there in the NFC West. I'm going to go San Fran. I think that they win the game. Just a 2 point spread anyways. I'm going 49ers. Detroit Lions last week ended up tying, and it was an absolute travesty. Those who had Detroit, the line was 3 last week for them, road favorites. And I was looking at that, and I think that Arizona might not even win a game this season, especially being in that tough division that we just talked about. They're really bad, right? Like they might win 1 or 2 games. If they went undefeated, I'd be surprised. Their defense looked good though. Larry Fitzgerald looked really good too. I don't know what year. He's got to be in the league for 13 years now at least. He looked really solid. And yeah, the Chargers last week, I thought that they're missing Melvin Gordon, and I think that's the big loss for them.
Eckler had a really good game, huh?
Yeah, but I don't know. Chargers here by 3. I'm going to go first then. I like Detroit a lot. Detroit's always been a better team at home, home opener. I think this is a little bit of a fishy line too when you see the Chargers just by 3. Or is that just me?
I don't know. I think the situation is that because of what happened last week, it's probably given a little bit of the gamble because again they only did 6 points. Well, again, they won in OT last week with Indy. I mean, if you just look at the quality of the teams,
Chargers are clearly the better team.
clearly
I'm not
the
going
better
to deny
team.
that. Yeah.
3 points. Again, I just don't. Detroit just can't be trusted at times.
For sure,
And again, like it looked like they had I think it was a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter against Arizona, and they blew it. Chargers team is a much better team, much better on D. I mean, I'm laying the 3 points on the Chargers. Again, you're right. It does seem like a low line.
It's a little fishy.
It's a little bit fishy, but I think the Chargers are just a much better team. So in those situations, like can't trust the lines. I would take the 3 points with the Chargers.
Okay. I mean, like I said, I'm going to take Detroit. I think if they surprise and they win this game. Arizona, Baltimore obviously dominated Miami last week, so it's kind of tough to. They won by like 45 points, so obviously they dominated. But Arizona coming off that game where, like you said, they came back 16 points, got the extra, went for the 2 at the end of the game, and drew in overtime. Do you like Baltimore? I know you don't like laying too many points, but do you like Baltimore there with the 14?
I think that, again, the line is heavy based off what Baltimore did last week. And, again, like teams that tend to go on and win those type of games in that kind of light tend to always have one of those games, whether it's a game after or maybe 2 games after, where they tend to, like, over it. And then, again, it's an overstatement because, again, the Miami team is such a bad team that, again, a 14 if you had, I would guarantee you if that was before the season started, this would be at most a 9.5 or an 8.5 spread. So I'm going to take Arizona in that because again, it's a 2 touchdown situation. I think they were playing very conservative last week with Kyler Murray and the new coaching staff. Once they let Murray do a little more of his thing, he was able to find Fitzgerald. I like Christian Kirk. I think he's going to be a really good player in the league.
I think David Johnson. I've always been a fan.
David Johnson's again, they're running back, right? I'm gonna take Arizona because I think it's one of those games where Baltimore doesn't have the I think I read a stat where they had like almost 7 or 8 plays of over 40 yards, so like they're not gonna have that in this game. So it'll be a closer game. I think Baltimore will win the game, but I'll take the 14 points, and I think it'll be a closer game than that.
I'm taking the Ravens. I think that they might have the best defense in football. Not a big Lamar Jackson fan, but I think that Arizona in this game is going to have a really tough time scoring. If you take away what they did in the fourth quarter last week, where they end up with 10 or 14 points in that game, I'm going to go Baltimore. I think that they blow them out, maybe 17 or 20 points. I think Baltimore is going to win by. Few games left. Minnesota, Green Bay. Green Bay, Rodgers coming off that first week win on the road. Now 2.5 point spread, and division game. Minnesota looked great last week at home. Leading Vikings, I think you're going to.
It's a tough city because I thought last week the Green Bay defense played again. It was a horrible game.
Bears are terrible.
It was a horrible game in terms of. But again, I didn't see much from Rodgers last week.
It's a
Aaron
tough defense
Jones.
to go against. So that's
it is,
right?
but
the Bears have a great defense.
But the mini defense isn't a joke either.
That's
right?
what I was going to say. Yeah.
So I mean, if I had to really go, I think the difference between obviously the mini situation. I think the Bears have a better defense than mini, but I think mini has a much better offense than what the Bears has. You look at Diggs, you look at Thielen, you look at Cook. I think that'll be a real test of that supposedly much better Green Bay defense.
Yeah.
So if the Packers at home are always a solid team. I'm going to say that I'm going to go with Minnesota in this game because I think that Mini will give Rodgers some problems defensively, and I think Cousins will do enough that Mini wins the game slightly because I do think that they are the better team of the two. More complete.
I'm going to go Green Bay, like you said. Obviously, Rodgers didn't look great last week, but we talked about how good that Bears defense is. And this is the game that if Green Bay wants to win the division, this might be a tiebreaker going down. Yeah. If they're tied towards the end of at the end of the season. 2.5. I'm going to take Green Bay, and I think they win maybe by a touchdown. Should be a close game, but who knows what happens. You never know. Some of these division games, maybe a bad bounce, a fumble, or whatever happens. I'm going to go Green Bay, and I think that Rodgers is going to bounce back with 2 or 3 touchdowns because he didn't throw them last week, right?
No, I don't believe.
The score was like a 13-3 or 13-6.
Yeah, it was basically a lot of field goals. Like I said, it was.
It's an ugly game.
It was an ugly game. I missed a good amount of it, but yeah, I didn't really miss much when I look back at the highlights. So.
Okay, so I'll go Green Bay there. Jacksonville, Houston, AFC South matchup there. Houston by 9.5. Jacksonville lost Foles last week. Defense got shredded by Kansas City.
Yeah.
And Mahomes, but
I wasn't
in there.
I mean, again, it's tough. Again, a rookie quarterback on the road. He did play reasonably well after Foles went down. But again, that Kansas City defense is still pretty terrible in my opinion. I'm gonna go with Houston to cover the 10 just because I think they feel slighted because they probably should have won the game against the Saints. Again, they're on a bit of a short weekend. I usually don't like to take teams that again haven't had the appropriate amount of rest per se. But I mean, I think Deshaun Watson will get his act together. They cut the corner that allowed that last ditch play.
Oh, they did?
They cut him right the day afterwards, and he had just signed a reasonably hefty deal. Like I said, the Saints game, the defense didn't show me much considering that they should have won that game based off of how it was going. But I think they have too much talent, and they're at home. Jacksonville, again, the rookie on the road, it's a pretty decent defense. I'm going to take Houston to cover them the 9.5.
I think with Jacksonville, I think their defense bounced back. They're probably going to look at some tape, and Jacksonville's had a good defense now for a while. Houston, another team that's usually pretty good at home, but the division game and such a big spread, I'm going to go Jacksonville. I think that Jacksonville is going to keep it within a touchdown. So we've done New England. Let's go, since we were just talking about Kansas City, let's talk about Mahomes and the Chiefs traveling to the Raiders.
You know what?
Oakland looked decent last week.
The Raiders were very much a surprise last week with the whole situation because I thought they would lose it, and I thought, well, I don't know about laying an egg because I think that Denver team is that great anyways. But they were very impressive from they. Even without AB, they didn't seem distracted.
Derek Carr had
a good running game. Terrell Williams had a good game. 8.5. I mean, it's a big spread, especially in another division game. Are the Raiders who we thought they are, or they thought they were? I don't know. I mean, no Tyreek Hill for the Chiefs. The defense is pretty horrible still, in my opinion.
Sammy Watkins was really good last week.
He was. And again, I think that, for example, Jacksonville, going back to that, I think they're gonna Jalen Ramsey's gonna have his hands full with Hopkins, but 8.5. That is a tough. I'm gonna go with KC because again, I just don't know if Oakland got properly tested by Denver last week, and again, that KC offense might be just too good to stop in general. I think Oakland will score points because I still think
Kansas City defense got a lot better. Where it's going to take some time to actually evaluate them, but I think that they drafted some guys and they can't be worse than they were last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at what the rookie on Jacksonville managed to do against them, it was impressive, especially for a guy that hadn't had any reps, right? And that makes you kind of go a little bit. But I'm gonna take KC. I think they got too many weapons, even with Hill out. So I think they'll cover that and probably win by a couple touchdowns.
I think Kansas City's going to go in and dominate the Raiders. I think, like you said, I don't think Denver's going to be great. They have a pretty good defense. They always do. But they have some problems at quarterback still. I don't like Flacco. I don't think he's really much better than what they've had the past few years. Better, I guess.
Aging quarterback, yeah.
And not many weapons either. I'm going to go with Kansas City. I think they're going to blow them out. New Orleans, probably the best matchup one of the best matchups on the slate. New Orleans traveling to LA to play the Rams. Rams snuck out with one against Carolina last week, won just by a field goal. This might be an NFC championship matchup here.
So this is my
Rams 2.5.
So this is my Iggy lock of the week.
Okay.
So I'm definitely taking the Saints to win that game.
Okay, why?
Why? Because of what happened in that championship game last year.
Yep. And
they're going to come out hungry and motivated, and they're not going to leave it in the refs' hands. So I think they're going to come out with fire and intensity in that game. That I think the Rams are a good team, but I think they've circled this one, and everybody on that Saints roster, that's especially again the majority are still there from last year. They'll be uber motivated to play that game, and they're going to try to come out and send a message. So I'm definitely taking the Saints to win that game because again. Like I said, I think the motivation's there. What happened last year because they thought they got robbed, and that tends to really motivate a team to really do well in the next matchup. Definitely taking the Saints there. Not only to cover to win the game.
Yeah, just the 2.5. I don't know. I really like New Orleans going into this, but I still think Michael Thomas had another solid game last week. Aaron Donald probably gonna win Defensive Player of the Year again for the Rams. I like New Orleans at first, and I just circled them. But I'm going to do a little plot twist and take the Rams. Yeah, okay. I'm going to take the Rams here. I think that they kind of, like I said, I think they got lucky last week just escaping a bad Carolina team that we just saw again on Thursday. And Drew Brees is not going to have all day to throw the ball with Donald in that front seven of the Rams. So I'm going to go Rams here. I know that the public, it's tough. I don't know. Like the Rams are probably a pretty popular team as well. They went to Super Bowl last year, but I think that everybody has that same logic you do. That New Orleans is going to think about that flag line, the non-call last year. So I'll go Rams, and that's a flip a coin game, obviously, but I'll go Rams just to switch it up. So we got 3 games left. Chicago -3 at Denver. Another line that's kind of tough to distinguish there because 2 teams that aren't who we thought they were. Right?
I mean, I don't really. I think Trubisky gets a lot of slack around the league in terms of how he was decent last year. He wasn't terrible,
Yeah.
and truthfully, like. The Denver defense was supposed to be pretty solid. They weren't solid in that open game. I can't see the Bears dropping to 0-2.
I can.
Oh, you can?
I
I think that defense will cause Flacco all sorts of problems. I think it'll be a low scoring game, but I don't see Trubisky being as bad as he was last week. I'm definitely taking Chicago there to cover because I think the defense will be too overwhelming for Flacco and that Broncos offense.
I think just Denver at home. Denver's pass rush coming off the edge there is still very solid. I'm going to go Denver to win this game. I don't like Chicago at all. I know that Chicago received, I think, the most bets that Vegas took for Super Bowl champ. I do think that, and this is another one of those games you look at and you're saying Chicago by 3, what's going on there, right? Like a lot of people pick them to win a division, to win a Super Bowl. A lot of hype after last year. When they went out, who did they go out to last year? Was it the Rams?
No, Chicago went out to Philly.
And they were big dogs in that game.
Because the kicker missed it, and then this is the kick. Yeah.
Don't leave it in the kicker's hands. Denver +3, take it to the bank. That might be my lock of the week. 2 games left. Sunday nighter. Philly at Atlanta. Philly -3, going into visiting the Dirty Birds. Wentz versus Ryan, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league.
I mean, again, though they struggled quite a bit against Washington, I kind of like to see the whole. It was very nostalgic to see what Deshaun Jackson did in that Eagles uniform because that flashback from like 7 or 8 years ago. I think all in all, I mean, I don't really know how good Atlanta's gonna be. I wasn't all that impressed last week.
Minnesota's tough.
Yeah, Minnesota's tough. Again, it's a good matchup. I'm going to take the better team, and I'm going to say that Philly covers the 3 points because I think it is a pick-em game. I think Philly has the offensive weapons. And I wasn't expecting Jackson to go off like that, but he seems to be in a groove. And then you got Alshon Jeffrey. The running game was solid. I think it'll be one of those games that it'll be a high-scoring game, but I'll take Philly to come out in the end and win it by 3.
I like Atlanta in this game. Sunday night, the Atlanta Stadium's going to be pretty live. Matt Ryan's usually always good in the dome too. This is the thing about teams that start off 0-1, right? They pull up the percentage. I heard it a lot on the radio. I think teams that start off 0-2 have like a 30% chance to make the playoffs. Last year,
7.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, I thought I heard 13. Yeah. But last year, 2 teams made the playoffs that started off that bad. One of them was the Colts.
And Houston, I think, was the other one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's because Tennessee faltered at the end. To be honest, there might have been another team as well that I can't think of. But I don't think that Atlanta wants to start off 0-2. Not like it's really in their hands. Well, it is in their hands, but Philly, I think, is another team that they're probably going to win that division and a Super Bowl contender for sure. But I like Atlanta in this matchup. Who knows? The thing with the 3 is a lot of people look at that and they say, okay, they're going to win by a field goal. Mm-hmm. But you might win by 1 or 2 points, right? Team scores a touchdown, you come down, 2 field goals, it's a 1-point game, and they kind of offset, right?
I think the thing with those lines is that because now there's so many more missed extra points that tends to screw the lines because you think, touchdown, 7 points. Yeah. It's not automatic anymore because I think it's what with 10 to 20% of them are being missed now compared to where they used to be. So those things to really screw around with the lines for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to go Atlanta. You got Philly. Last game on the slate, Cleveland at the Jets. Cleveland by 2. It started off as Cleveland by 2. Now it's Cleveland by 7 because Sam Darnold's out with mono. Jets at home on a Monday night too. I know the quarterback. Who's their backup? It's Trevor Siemian, the old Denver quarterback. I'm guessing you like Cleveland.
I mean,
7's a lot on the road on a Monday night.
It is for a bad.
For a
But
team
again,
that's-
but like I said, the Jets blew it against the Bills. The Browns were embarrassed. I think the problem with and I really love that Delaney Walker, because I know when
Great clip.
Boy, it was a great clip. Like, if you guys want to crown him,
In high pitched voice.
yeah, it was great. It was probably the sound clip of the week, to be honest.
Maybe it was the year.
But I mean, in all honesty, I think the Browns put a lot of praise on themselves, and a lot of people started talking about them. And it just didn't show up on the field because it wasn't. The Titans team was a solid squad, and then they basically owned them throughout the game. The Jets team is a different.
Jets still has a good defense though.
They
right?
do. But again, Trevor Simeon's got I think somewhat of a winning record as a starter, because again Denver has some decent. But I just don't believe that they'll have enough against a pretty. Again, they're a talented team. We're not giving they're the Browns, obviously. They've been bad for years. I mean, last year they were okay, but they have some players that you would think that would be able to move the ball offensively. Landry, OBJ, and Mayfield and Chubb. They have
the tight end's very good too. Tight end from Miami.
Njoku.
Yep.
Yeah, they have the talent there, and I think that again they were embarrassed last week, and they'll come out hard and they'll cover the touchdown sprays. Like, I just can't see back-to-back weeks.
I can see Cleveland going 0-2. I can see them going 0-2. And what's going to happen? Coach will be on the hot seat right away first year if they go 0-2, especially against the Jets team without Sam Darnold. And a Jets team that's not very good, right?
Yeah, maybe without Le'Veon Bell too.
Oh, is he dinged up as well?
He had that MRI situation where he might not be able to play. That's another why the line went up.
Okay, Le'Veon Bell's out. It's going to be tough. But either way, I do like the Jets to cover the 7. If Bell's in, I think the Jets might be able to pull off the win. Just like I said last, I know that Buffalo doesn't have a great offense, and it was a division game, but I really like the Jets defense. The Jets have had a good defense for how long? It seems like the last decade.
Well, I mean, they had the I forget it was the linebacker that was having a great game against the Bills, and he got injured, and then he came out, and then they completely changed the game.
Late touchdown with
Mobley,
the Bills, right?
Mobley, I think it was. Again, it was a late touchdown, but again, he came out of the game. The defense kind of fell apart because like that touchdown by the Bills, John Brown, and that was just horrible coverage. Like it wasn't anything like just horrible coverage. And then the kicker situation again. I just again the Jets are one of those teams where I just don't know where the wins are gonna come because I don't think they're very good. Like even with Le'Veon, and I mean if Le'Veon has a great year, but again Darnold, he could be out for a month, could be more. Yeah. Like again, Simeon's not terrible as a backup, but
one of the better ones.
He also I don't know. It's one of those situations where Cleveland I think is gonna come out hard because again they don't want to go into they'll bounce back. But I mean you could be right, but again maybe they won't cover, but I can't see 0-2.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Jets on the spread. Let's do, lastly, we'll just pick 4 games that we like, and we'll try and keep track of all the games we pick, and then also our 4-game pack. You want to go first, or do you want me to go?
So, again, I'm going to stick with my lock of the week, and I'll take the New Orleans to cover against the Rams. So that's 1. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Seattle on that Pittsburgh game, I'm feeling that.
So New Orleans plus 2.5, Seattle plus 4.
Plus 4. Your Titans at 4. I like that.
Titans minus 4 on last game.
4, and let's go with debating between the Chicago game or the Dallas game. I'm gonna say Dallas and the 6.5. They'll cover that one by at least a touchdown. So that's my Iggy's 4 game.
You got 2 favorites. You have Titans by 4 and Dallas 6.5, and then New Orleans plus the 2.5 and Seattle plus the 4.
Mm-hmm.
My pick of the week is going to be Denver plus 3.
Okay.
Against the Bears. I know you don't like that one.
Ballsy.
I also like the Giants plus 2.
Okay.
At home against the Bills. Kansas City by the 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, I will go with Baltimore by 14.
Wow.
So what? 2 favorites and 2 dogs as well. So I'm going to take once again Denver by plus the 3, Giants plus 2, KC minus 8.5, Baltimore minus 14. Igor's going with New Orleans plus 2.5, Seattle plus 4, Titans minus 4, Dallas minus 6.5. And we'll do this again next week. We'll play for all the chips.
We'll play for all the chips, see how we did.
All right, guys. Good luck with all your picks this week, and make some money. For Igor and Joe, we'll see you guys next time on the block.
Shout out to Porco.